Stories, music, life.
BBC Newcastle. Radio for the North East.
Charlie Charlton.
Well, on this show this week, we like to give you an insight into other worlds. And this one is the world of paedophile hunters here in the North East. Sadly, a day doesn't go by where we don't get court reports about crimes against children and so on. You're going to hear from the men in Newcastle who set up Dark Justice, an organisation. They describe themselves as an online child protection service. They say that the evidence they've gathered over the past 4 years has led to 164 arrests right across the UK and 85 people being convicted for crimes against children. Actually, make that 86 convictions, because I was talking to them on Friday, and at that time there was a case going through the courts which ended up with another man being sent to prison on the back of evidence gathered by Dark Justice and another group, Guardians of the North, and that had been presented to the police to help build up the case, according to these guys. Well, Neil Jackson is a filmmaker. He's been following the work of Dark Justice, which isn't illegal. It was one of the questions I put to him. He's been following it for a few years.
Yeah, I think the scale has astounded me. I was aware there was a problem. I've got children myself. I'm obviously quite a cautious parent and have tried to teach my kids how to be safe online. But there are things that I've found out that I would never have thought, never have come across.
When you've been meeting with them,
yeah,
initially they're obviously armed with phones, because this is how they're contacting people online.
It's their tools of the trade. The first few meetings, the phones were bleeping, and initially I thought it's a bit rude that, we're in a meeting here, But then it dawned on me that every bleep I was hearing was an adult thinking he was contacting a child, and I think that thought is a very sobering one, and really kind of brought it home to me how big the issue is. A phone going off every 2 or 3 seconds with a different man or a different woman trying to contact who they believe is a child.
When they initially put out a pretend profile online, talk us through that. You've been there at that moment, and then the subsequent, let's even just say the following half hour. What's happening?
Well, the profile that they set up is of a child. It is a very normal profile. It can be a child from anything from sort of 12 up to 15. And once they've set that profile up, sometimes it's on Facebook, sometimes it's in groups on Facebook, sometimes it's within other platforms, other apps, dating apps occasionally, Snapchat, all sorts of different ways that kids use to communicate nowadays. Once they've set that profile up, they leave it. They don't kind of fish for people to try and make contact with them. They wait for that contact to happen. And staggeringly, most of the time, that contact comes very, very quickly. I've been with them when that contact has been within minutes. Somebody is trying to initiate a meeting.
And is this a forum that anybody's on? We're not talking about the dark web here.
No, not the dark web at all. No, and I think that's an important question we want to ask within the film. Is what are these companies, the people who run the apps, the people who should be policing the way that they're being used? How are they safeguarding children using those apps? There has to be a better way.
The word vigilante was used for groups such as Dark Justice for many years. They would describe themselves as paedophile hunters.
Yeah.
Do you think they are stepping on the toes of police who are also trying to do this job?
I think they're doing a job that nobody else is able to do at this stage. That's my personal feeling. I think that the police do a wonderful job most of the time. I think that they're woefully underfunded and under-resourced, and I think they just do not have the money or the manpower or the experience and skills, because technology is moving forward at such a rate that you have to keep moving with it.
But the police are brought in at the moment of the meat, as it's described.
That's
Tell us
right.
about that.
Dark Justice will always contact the police in advance and tell them that they're going to do what they call a sting on this person. The police will turn up to that meet and then be available to arrest that person. Dark Justice then will give all of the information, the chat logs. They'll come to the police station, give statements.
Do you feel haunted by it from what you've learnt over this time?
I feel disappointed as a human that there are other humans out there who think this way and think that it is acceptable and fine to say those things, do those things to children. I think is abhorrent. When you become a parent, I think that gives you a slightly different dimension. I imagine my child in that situation, and it doesn't bear thinking about.
So that's Neil Jackson. He's a filmmaker, and it's a very interesting way of looking at things from his point of view, because he's just observing them. He's got a crowdfunding page inside Dark Justice because he's hoping to raise money to make a feature-length film about their work. There's a deadline by the end of this month. He did raise a number of issues there, which Dark Justice have raised to him. We have calls in right across the board with various government agencies to talk about funding, to talk about rehabilitation, to talk about sentencing. And you're going to hear from the men themselves, Scott and Callum, on tomorrow's show. You'll also hear it. Well, you're going to hear their mobile phones bleeping continually throughout the interview because, as they said, it's men trying to contact their decoys. They think the underage girls can chat because at the time we're doing the interview, they're on their lunch breaks from school, seemingly, which really does give things a different take, doesn't it? You'll hear more from them on the show tomorrow.